Welcome back to Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. Been doing some cooking in the house today, messing around. It's kind of cloudy and crappy out, but I want to talk about the last video. As you guys know, the title of that thing was an extremely bold statement of the end of days starting. And, I don't take it lightly, nor am I trying to trick anybody or get anything out of this other than just get people's attention, that we need to be paying attention to the time that we're in. And it looks closer than ever. The reason why I picked October 3rd is because of the number lineup. From October 3rd to Passover 2022, it's 3.5 years from now. It's exactly 1,290 days, which mentioned in the book of Daniel, chapter 12, and it's verse 11, okay? 1,290 days, the abomination of desolation. And then we know that there's 1,260 days from that point that Israel flees into the wilderness where they're protected by God. If you take 1,260 from that time, 3.5 years further, 1,260 days from Passover 2022 to 2025, it takes you to 2 days past Feast of Trumpets on Shabbat Shuvah, the day of return, okay, which I think is a huge correlation to actually blowing the trumpets and then it happening and us coming back between Feast of Atonement, fulfilling the feast days. As you guys know, the peace deal with Israel has not gone forward, okay? And they're talking about it being done by December, all right? And you guys have speculated, well, maybe that's when it'll start. And it's a good question. The problem is if we start it in December, you go forward 7 years. We know the length of the tribulation to the days, exactly 2,550 days, okay? Not only will we bypass the fall feasts that need to be fulfilled on their days, but it will start and end in December, and that skips the feast days, so that won't work. They have to. It has to start and end in the fall on those times, and especially since what I was telling you guys that the Holy Spirit revealed to me, the Feast of Trumpets is actually for the second coming and not the start of it. Okay, whether you believe that or not, that's okay. You know that Feast of Atonement and Tabernacles definitely be an end time thing that happens with it. So just understanding that much, you know that it has to end in the fall time. And to end in the fall time, it has to start there because you make 7 complete years, okay? So knowing that. Now this gets to my very point that I want to make, and that is the peace deal that is being made with Israel and the covenant with many from Daniel 9:27 are completely two separate events, okay? That's the point. We've thought for years, oh, it's a peace treaty with Israel, and then he breaks it halfway. And you get told this and heard this over and over and over again, right? Until you actually think that that's what the verse says, right? Well, Daniel 9:27, and he shall confirm the covenant. There's a little reference point here. The can be changed to a. And he shall confirm a covenant with many, all right? Many being the world or 10 kings. The reference point there goes back to a point that is referencing the world. Or what I'm saying is 10 kings, okay, which I already think have been on the move now for a while and implementing everything and getting into position for the final strike here, all right? We know they want to bring the world's population down, all right? It's in their Georgia Guidestones and everything else. We know it's on Deagle and some other places that report world population, at least U.S. population from Deagle, that we're down like 90% in America, okay? So they want to do it by an implementing time. And I think that this covenant is that. It's like, let's start it now, okay? And then it goes, and in the midst of the week, all right, the midst of this 7-year deal, closed doors deal, it says he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. All right, we know what happens. He stops the sacrifice. You can read it in other versions of the Bible. It says no more sacrifices, basically. No overspreading abomination shall we make it desolate, even until the consumption and the torment be poured upon the desolate. The point is here is he's not breaking a covenant with them. He's just merely going in and stopping them at a certain time. This certain time just happens to be 1,290 days from the time that the tribulation starts, okay? Separate event, and now we're going to make it even more separate. I think the rapture itself is its own timeline as well, at an appointed time that God has picked. 3 separate ones, okay? I've shown you guys this before. It's a reference to Daniel and Revelation. They talk about the same things, right? But one has numbers and time links, whereas the other does as well, but it has also events that take place. Do they go perfectly together? There is a fluctuation. We don't know the overlay. I've shown this video clip before.
This is our ticket out of here.
What is it?
Flatten them out and look.
And as you can see in the clip, the papers come together to make a story, which is the story that we are talking about right now, okay? And I thought that clip was a very good example of that. But do they go perfectly together, or is there a side? From the way it looks to me, they don't go exactly when we think. Now, what does this mean? It means that the tribulation can start and the seals haven't been open. All right, now I make this mistake too, all right? So forgive me for that. You think that when the tribulation starts, the seals are broken immediately with it, all right? And that's why I'm trying to come up with, well, could the white seal go for a while before the second one, all right? And Justin Foy made in the comments made a good point that the tribulation does not start with us here. God's not going to be releasing wrath upon his bride, okay? And it's a really good point. And, I've thought about it. So there's two ways we can look at this. The first seal, which nobody knows what it is. If you don't believe me, you can just start looking at different theories for it, all right? There's different ones. There's tons of different ones. We don't have a lockdown like we do with the second and the third seal, all right? Even the fourth seal, or even the fourth one, the fourth horse, the seal, it kind of speaks about the famine and the war that came with those, and we get a good idea of those are exactly what they are. But the first one's kind of this mystery, all right? What exactly is it? We don't know. We've heard it from Jesus to the start of the Antichrist to deception and to a number of different things. We won't know until it happens, all right? The point is there's two ways we can look at this. The tribulation starts and the seal is broken, but it's not harmful, okay? We're not in any danger, but it is the start of the tribulation, and we're still here until the danger comes, all right? One idea. The other idea is that doesn't happen at all. The tribulation starts, but because they don't go perfectly together, there's a 30-day split, okay? We go into it for a while, more prepping builds up, and we watch through the month of October as this thing just takes it right up to the edge, okay? All four horses coming out at the same time we go up, okay, into safety. Now, there's this talk that we're the 24 elders, all right? This is another idea that I believe is a speculation. It is not guaranteed that we are the 24 elders, okay? We got to realize we're not the only Christians here. We're in a time period, but there are elders that, or other Christians that have gone before us, and it could be them up there, maybe patriotic ones, or a number of different ideas, okay? Could it mean that we're also in heaven when the seals are open? Yeah, it absolutely could mean that too. But the way it looks and with people's visions that I'm also considering as well, we go up when the bombs come down, and that sounds like the seals are about to split right there. So that might mean that we're not the 24 elders, okay? And that's something that we have to keep open mind too. So we're not really sure. We just know that we get out of here. God's watching out for us before this whole thing gets bad, all right? Next year's timeline does not line up with the numbers. There are days passed on certain ones, and it doesn't line up to exactly the days like this year does, okay? Could something switch around for next year if we were to look at it? Yeah, we might be able to find some stuff that might be hidden now, but for right now, the way that it looks, it's this year starting it off that looks absolutely perfect, okay? So what does that mean? Let's throw a scenario out. Tribulation starts on Wednesday, okay? Nobody knows it. John sees this when he's getting a vision of the future, and he's literally in the committee backdoor meeting when the Antichrist, and we'll call him Obama, confirms that we're starting this thing right now. Here, it's a go for launch. Why does it need to start now? There's a number of different reasons, including Planet Nibiru, Hillary's age, if she really wants to rule as president after it comes through, the Pope's age, which we know is the false prophet, not only from the Malaki prophecy, which if it was one, we could be like, maybe not, but when it gets double confirmed by Revelation 17 and the Lantern Treaty from 1929 that puts him up as the 8th king, all right, in the concession of that, from that chapter from Revelation 17, Man, it really crosshairs it really, really good, and I definitely consider it. He does not die of old age. We learn that in Revelation 19 because him and the Antichrist are both tossed alive in a lake of fire. They're the first to go when we come back. All right, so counting that up, and you throw 7 years on him for his age, he hasn't died of old age yet, so stuff has to take off pretty soon. This year looks more and more like it. So, knowing all this, and we're balancing everything out. We're not throwing any verses out, like you say. That's one of the things you can never do with prophecy. Every single one will come to pass exactly like it was said, including the point that they're giving in marriage, going about daily business. This is why I'm totally against post and mid-tribulation ideas. Nobody's going to be going around daily business during those times. It's going to be a totally different world, totally changed. We go out before they notice, okay? So it might start, and we don't go out for a little while, all right? That's the point, because during that time, now we see it, we know what's going on, but how blind is the world to this right now? Extremely blind. They have no clue. They're still planning for their marriages and all this stuff. And this is including 90% of the church, okay? They have no idea what's actually going on, all right? This thing starts, okay? We go into it, it builds up, we see it coming, boom, we get taken out, and for the sake of this conversation, let's say the white horse is one of the seals that happen, and it does have to do with destruction and things like that, or the Antichrist going out. Boom, it's released. They all go. Still fitting the timeline, 1,290 days to Passover, okay? This thing goes off. 2 witnesses come down exactly on November 3rd. Why? Because that's 1,260 days to Passover, halfway through the tribulation. We know exactly from chapter 11 of Revelation that that's only going to go for 1,260 days. So there's a 30-day split here, all right? They don't show up right in the beginning. From what I can tell, they don't show up right in the beginning, okay? This continues on. Boom. Gog and Magog happens. It's an aspect of the second seal during the World War that goes on. We get a strike from China and Russian sub-nukes on the East Coast. Totally damages an EMP in America, right? Right in the start of the tribulation. We can't help Israel. They go down to take them out. Now that we're in the tribulation, we've been raptured out. God comes in, intervenes, takes out 5, 6 of them, leaves them totally and utterly destroyed. They go into burning their weapons for a start of 7 years, all right? That very well might continue into part of the 1,000-year reign. And half of it, when the Antichrist comes in, might be split, and then the other half might get burned or destroyed during this time. Just an idea, okay? They bury the bodies and things like that. Now, during this time, that only lasts for a short time, from that kid Jeremy's vision that went to heaven and came back and said that the World War III only lasted a couple months and it was over. It was real fast and heated. And then he talks about how aliens come down and they're eating people and stuff after that, and it gets way worse. Okay, beside the point, I think it'll be short too. All right. It's just to kill a bunch of people off radiation. They're going to be starving from an economic collapse and stuff that happens all at the same time worldwide. Meanwhile, around December, this peace deal and all this other stuff does get pushed forward, all right, with Israel. And the other nations that have tried to come up realize there's nothing we can do. We can't fight against them. And they're like, whatever, just don't hurt us anymore, okay? They do it, and they're allowed to start building the temple, okay? Around June next year, June 9th or 10th on Passover, it's either built or they're starting to build it. And it fulfills the prophecy from Daniel 8:14, all right? And I'm going to read just before that. That certain saints which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily fast sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host be trodden underfoot? Talking about the temple and stuff in Israel, how long Gentiles and everybody walk around it and stuff like that during this time. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, right? That's about 8 months short of the 7 years, okay? So I think it would start sometime during that time next year. Now it says, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Okay, this is interesting. When does this cleansing take place? Does it push all the way up to December of 2025, which also lines up with the 1,335 days that I was talking about? It says, blessed is he that makes it to it. That goes to Hanukkah, right? December 14th, I believe, 2025. And that is for the cleansing of the temple, okay? It might very well have to do with that. If that's the case, then we need to push the 2,300 days forward a few months, and then it wouldn't be done or built until around July or August next year, okay? During the tribulation, doesn't have anything to do with it, but that's just a fluctuating thing that we don't really know about, okay? Once this peace deal is made or whatever with them, it continues on for the time they start to build the temple as the red heifer grows, okay? They get the thing completed whenever, and by the time that the heifer is at the age to do the sacrifice and the sprinkling, it's before the mid time of the tribulation when the Antichrist goes in. Now he's going to go in, and this is why it can be Obama, right? Because there was no deal made with Israel, all right? Let's consider for a second that Trump is working for Obama. They're like, we need to bring in a ringer. We couldn't do the deal. They know exactly who I am, and they can't stand me, and I can't put on the two-face long enough to be chummy with Israel because Obama secretly hates him, right? Knowing this, they bring in a ringer, Trump, something's been planned for a while as an emergency backup, and they run the deal, okay? They get the thing confirmed. And that is the mission, all right? To get that thing confirmed for them so that Obama can go in later and fulfill it because he wants to be a god, all right? Satan inside him is going to be indwelling, wants to be ruled or worshipped again, all right? So he's going to be going into the temple and doing the abomination of desolation. What they do, what he does is he stops the daily sacrifice, okay? There is no covenant deal that is mentioned to be broken with Israel because it wasn't made with him. It was made with somebody else because it's two separate events that are working alongside each other. If they said, hey, we got the peace deal and it'll be by October 3rd at the same time, then we could look at it more like that. But being separate and knowing that the timeline has to fit the days perfectly, I think it's pretty obvious now at this point that the peace deal with Israel is being worked on with Trump administration is not the same deal that the Antichrist, which starts the tribulation, okay? That's the real point here, okay? And that is why we need to take it serious, because why people are looking at, oh, this still is going to be a time off. It's not going to be a time off. It's already started and we're about to go into it, and it's going to catch them by surprise, like a surprise they've never seen before, okay? It's literally building towards this. And that's the whole point of the thing that I want to pay attention to here, all right? Now, let's say it goes into it. We don't see anything, we don't feel anything, we don't hear any discernment from it. And it continues on, and we get past the 30 days and we're into it. As far as I'm concerned, it won't line up for this year, okay? And we'll push it off. And that peace deal, I'm pretty sure, is going to be, like I say, still its own separate entity, okay? But the way that it looks right now, with the timelines, this looks exactly like when it's going to start. We might not see it start, okay? And I don't know if we'll get any warning about it, but if it does, what we should be experiencing is this thing building up even worse, like never before, and fast. And we're going to see it come to a climax around the first weekend of November or the end of October when this thing breaks over, okay? And when it does, when it really does, Jesus is going to get us out of here at his appointed time that he has picked for this whole thing. This lines up with Noah and the prophecy that they'll be drinking and going about their daily lives and giving in marriage just like the time of Noah before the flood came on them, okay? Because from the original New Year that they have, which is Rosh Hashanah in Israel, it's a fall time event, right? And it was like the 17th day of the second month. We could see something very similar here. And around the end of October, 1st of November time period is that same time period when the flood came and Noah and his family were lifted up on the ark and out of the way while the earth was completely destroyed. But this time it's going to be rendered in fire. So it would fulfill that very closely again along the same lines and the same time period that it happened back then. It would be happening again now, all right? This is all very interesting, and this is like I say, I'm just going back over what we were talking about on the last video. If there was any confusion or anything like that, okay? Peace deal with Israel, separate from the peace deal. It's not a peace deal at all. It says a covenant with many for 1 week, or we know the timeline from this in Daniel is 7 years, okay? All right, and in the midst of the week, you shall go in, cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. No breaking of a peace deal, nothing like that with Israel. He just stops their sacrifices from happening, okay? And then he goes in there and declares himself to be God. And then Israel's told, when you see this happen, run for your lives because he's about to turn on you, okay? So they know that, and they take off. This is a real thing that is going to happen. Like I said, we've looked at it for so long that we think that it's a peace deal with Israel, and then it gets broken. And it's not. This is two separate events altogether, and this is exactly why Israel doesn't have to worry about being fooled. They're already being fooled thinking that Trump and Jared Kushner are doing this whole thing, all right? And do not think for a second that Trump's one of the good guys. I don't trust him, and I haven't ever since I was praying that he would get in and beat Hillary, and God shut me down in the middle of the prayer and says, let the dead bury the dead, okay? There is no way, and I mean absolutely no way, that he does not know that Jared Kushner is... He owned the building 666 in New York that cost tons of money, and he is a huge in the company, the Lucius technology, all right, for the Mark of the Beast chip and RFID check technology and stuff like that, all right? They already know that. Why the whole Kavanaugh stuff was going on, I saw that Trump was having a meeting with a bunch of different techies in the Oval Office on 5G and rolling it out, all right? Why the Kavanaugh thing was going on. Why? Because people are totally concerned about that for cancer reasons and all kinds of other things. That's not what bothers me at all. That's just very bad enough as it is. What bothers me is they're getting the technology and faster internet and all this other stuff, which has nothing to do with high-speed viewing on YouTube. It has to do with the mark of the beast, all right? And a worldwide internet that's fast enough to accommodate everybody having a chip in their hand during the tribulation. That's what this is all for, and that's why they're rolling out the 5G. That's what it has to do with. And the idea of them having satellites around so there's Wi-Fi worldwide, it's more of that. It all fits in with the mark of the beast and what they have planned for that, okay? So why they're doing this isn't the only time I've heard this. When Trump was down there talking border walls, it was also an excuse that the FBI or whatever was buying guillotine blades, and they didn't call them that. They were buying them from Mexico, so there wouldn't be a paper trail with their dimensions and their size and shape. And I can't remember, it was like 30,000 spare ones, and they were shipped them out to different FEMA locations, okay? So this stuff, they know exactly what they're doing. This is all a front. It always has been. It's a gigantic sham. And why they're saying, hey, look over here, they're actually starting the tribulation. And I believe that's exactly what's happening. Trump wants to get it done in his first term, he says, all right? Well, the whole point of that is they want to get it done as fast as possible so they can start building a temple, because they know the timeline of the Planet X coming through and everything else that they've been told through Lucifer and his fallen angels and everything else, so that they can get Obama, which we're calling the Antichrist, into the temple 3.5 years into it, which would be April 15th, 2022 on Passover, okay? The numbers line up, all right? The numbers line up for this year to start this thing off. And all I know is that we're taking a look and having an adult conversation about the whole thing. You guys know the stuff that I talk about, and if there's people that are watching this and this is a little over your head, this is kind of advanced talk that we're doing, and it's for people that have thoroughly read the Bible and continue to know the verses that I'm talking about. And that's why we're not taking it so we can jump back and forth to different verses and bring out points and stuff like that, fulfilling the different prophecies and things like that. I see this being able to be taking place. And that way, we're not pointed to any sort of tribulation that's starting, but the tribulation has started. But since the seals are the start of the punishment that comes with it, and if they're not associated with the start of the tribulation, which they don't have to be, they're two separate books, what's completely separate, Revelation and Daniel, okay? Then that means the punishment could start after the tribulation has started and we're still safe, all right? And that means there's still time to get raptured out of here, up in heaven, before Jesus splits the seals and the whole thing kicks off, okay? So this is still a real possibility. We've looked at all of this, we're looking at the verses, and all of them still are fulfilled. About we would see the Antichrist and everything like that. If it is Obama, we've already known for 8 years that it's him, all right? He was revealed, and the falling away as well before we get taken up. So that also fulfills that, okay? And there's been plenty, including myself, that have all been told and had visions and dreams that that's exactly who he is. And I've told you before, the work they have put into him has started since his very birth to be the Antichrist. They know exactly what he was. They've created him with all the right mixtures and exactly what they need, and looked at the Bible as a playbook on what he needed to be and do, just so he could be it in an absolute defiance towards God, okay? The guy's bad news, all right? Just wanted to go over this a little bit more, get you thinking about this and how it can possibly play out here in an idea, all right? Thing starts on Wednesday. Maybe we don't know it. Stuff starts getting darker towards the end of October, around the first weekend of November. Boom, we get raptured out, seals break, World War III starts, okay, along with the four horsemen. Economic collapse and death toll, all right, start building up. During this time, Israel gets the Gog and Magog attack. It totally gets annihilated. Magog, Iran, and parts of Russia are still left, but 5-6 of them get destroyed, and the other guys have their tail between their legs. Now they run a peace deal, and the Islamic nations don't have a problem anymore because they've just got totally humiliated. They start to build the temple. It lines up with the prophecy in Daniel 8:14, I believe. And it goes for the 2,300 days, all right, until the very end when we come back, all right, fulfilling that as well. The red heifer starts to grow, and it continues on until its time. It's going to be unblemished because it was a lab creation, all right? It's probably going to be just perfect for it. Then they're going to do the sacrifice for that. Halfway through, being a completely different entity, from the peace deal. Antichrist rolls in with his little army and stops the sacrifice, declares himself to be God, okay? Two witnesses get killed, and then they get taken up. And during this time, of course, they're going 1,260 days leading up to this time in Passover, okay? This is the scenario that I have that would be playing out if this thing starts this year, okay? And it fills the timelines perfectly, and the feast days will be fulfilled perfectly 7 years from now when it continues on to that point. The numbers are perfect. It goes along with the visions of destructions, the children's visions, people's visions. It's about to go. We need to be warning people. Everything fits in it right now. So taking that stuff seriously, this is the scenario that I've thrown together and why it looks like it's about to start. Okay, nothing more. And this is an adult conversation, and it's open for debate. You can talk about different things and everything like that, and I'm happy to try and answer questions and stuff like that. But from what I look like, from what this looks like, there is no prophecies that aren't unfulfilled from this. There might be a little variation into how we've been looking at them and stuff like that, but this thing looks like it could work out and it could fit for this whole thing to start. So be paying attention, like I say, and be praying about it, all right? I'll catch you guys next time. God bless. Bye.